Okay, there we go. Is that good enough? Oh, forget it. I really don't care if that outlet is in there or not. I care about functionality. So I'm guessing a lot of you are probably kind of surprised that I'm doing 2 live streams in a row. You might be thinking, well, dang, Paul, you're usually not one for live streams, but it's a combination of my sister's on a mission trip, so I don't really have to worry about um, bothering anyone for the next several hours. So I figure I can take my time and really just be there for you guys. The second reason is that our um, our streams have been going so well lately that I just really wanted to make sure that, especially some of the newer folks, are getting a wide variety of times so that as many people can be happy as possible. Because yesterday I streamed from, I think it was like 4 to 5:30. So maybe if I stream now, then more of the afternoon crowd will want to come in. And if you're wondering why I'm sounding so tired, it's because there's a lot of dust buildup from cleaning my room. So I have really bad seasonal allergies. And so talking is a bit of a chore right now, but I will do it for you guys. That is not a problem whatsoever. But one thing I wanted to talk about was that I was really surprised by the reaction to my Virtual Boy video because yes, it's still, liked more than it is disliked, which is, nice. Like I said in the last live stream, the last time I had a dislike bombed video was in 2022 when I reviewed Near Automata. And like I said in that live stream, I'm pretty sure the only reason it was dislike bombed was because I didn't like the game. And you know how people are, automatically dislike the video if they disagree with your opinions, that kind of logic. And with this Virtual Boy video, I was thinking, I don't think I'm sharing any controversial opinions. Like, the people in the 90s universally hated the Virtual Boy. I didn't play it until Nintendo released it. And I thought, oh, this would be cool to raise awareness of Nintendo's lies. But then, then I got some really crazy comments in there. There was one person who said that people have been modding the 3DS for years, and I just didn't want to endorse modding. And it was an interesting conversation, I'll put it that way. He started getting all metaphorical near the end by saying, your argument doesn't hold water. And then I made a literal thinking joke. And then I guess it could have been a she. I don't want to be sexist. He or she then proceeded to say spit in one hand and feelings in another. And at that point, I just could not take him seriously because I am like the world's most literal thinker ever. And so I tried to imagine spitting on my hand. I was like, gross. I don't even like playing with paint. Like, I am one of those neat freaks in the sense that I don't like anything touching me except people and clothes. And even then, like, I always tell my friends, I never want to be touched on my face or on my chest. I don't even like touching my chest. So if I don't like doing it, then I don't expect other people to. And then another person, this cracked me up. Another person came in and said, Nintendo has never claimed that the Virtual Boy was incompatible with Nintendo Labo VR. So I said, all right, I will Google the answer. So I did. I typed in Nintendo clarified that Labo VR is incompatible with the Virtual Boy on the Switch. 2 seconds later, first thing that popped up was an article from Nintendo Life saying that Nintendo clarified it. So I copied and pasted the link, And it made me think, you know what? There's a quote in Star Wars Revenge of the Sith that really applies to these kinds of people. And that's that only the Sith deal in absolutes. And I was thinking, like, is that really like a bad thing? Because we always assume that the Sith are bad people and the Jedi are the good guys. So is there a such thing as an absolute from our perspective as Christians? But then I started thinking, like Father Casey Lowe from the YouTube channel Breaking in the Habit, um, he made a video called Nothing is Automatically a Mortal Sin. So I think like there are a lot of Catholic extremists who will say things like, "Oh, if you abort a baby, that's automatically a mortal sin." And it's like, well, you have to remember what classifies as a mortal sin. A mortal sin is it has to be a grave sin, has to be full knowledge and full consent. So, there are some women that don't want abortions, but like maybe the man puts a gun to her forehead or something. That wouldn't be full consent. So I think like definitive statements like Nintendo has never made a statement claiming to the contrary. And yet I disproved that in literally 2 seconds of Google research. It makes me think that people prefer to talk first, think later. And I've always been the type that, yes, I always say what's on my mind, but there's usually like a lot of thought that goes into what I say by the time I say it. I don't know if that makes any sense to you guys, but I know for me, I spend most of my time alone. And then by the time I do talk to people, I'm usually really outgoing. So I feel like that helps me to avoid the typical burnout that a usual introvert would feel because I like I'm the type of person that yes, I like video games. Obviously, I like video games if this shirt is any indication or the Switch 2 is any indication, but that doesn't mean I play video games literally every single day. There are days when I would much rather use the Switch 2 for game chatting than I would for gaming. Because this Switch 2, one thing that I don't hear enough people talking about is this thing can act as a makeshift cell phone because I can talk to my friends from Australia with this thing, but yet I can't exchange numbers with them because that's just too much money to do that kind of long distance call. But with this, I can literally pretend like I'm talking on the cell phone with Miss Peggle. I mean, it's not exactly a secret that she's from Australia. And this is just an added bonus to the fact that I already bought Switch Online. And even if I didn't, Game Chat is free for anyone for this time around. Yes, I have heard of Discord, Milky Hazard, but I was kicked out of it. And then I reached out to customer support and they couldn't help me. So I just said, well, I give up. But like I said in a previous chat, if you can think of a good alternative to Discord, please let me know because I would love to create, like, I don't know, Catholic Gaming Nerd Discord. I feel like you guys like me enough. We get into good conversations. I generally have way more lovers than I do haters on this channel. Like, the haters make up such a small minority that it makes me feel very blessed. Like, I bet if I were to tally up every single hate comment I've ever got on this channel, they'd make up like probably, I don't know, maybe like less than 50. But the number of like comments I've got is probably like in the thousands. But welcome in, Milky Hazard. You doing well today? And again, I'm still getting used to all these names, but do you like to play any video games? If so, now's your chance to blab. Oh, by the way, I don't know if this applies to everyone, but I recently went into YouTube settings and I changed it so that there was an agreement for first-time chatters. However, I don't know if that applies to everyone who enters my chats, but I put in there that I I like it when people self-promote. I am not one of those streamers that says don't do it. It's like if you got a Twitter or if you got a Deviant art or anything like that that you want to share, go for it. Hopefully YouTube doesn't hold your links thinking that it's a bot, but you know what? I have no objections. I mean, I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't allow promotion because I'm promoting something. Not exactly me, but it's promoting another YouTuber I like. So if you're a YouTuber that I could end up liking, why not? And then I also said, just like, yeah, I'm not a politically correct person. I'll talk about controversial stuff. And if you don't like it, I mean, you know what you were getting into with the name Catholic Gaming Nerd, after all. But, yeah, Milky Hazard, I don't think I've seen you around. Um, what kind of videos do you usually watch on my channel? But yeah, I was just really surprised by how my Virtual Boy video turned out because I thought it would be an absolute slam dunk. Because people, they don't really like Nintendo right now. I'm kind of in between. Like, there are things I like about them and things I hate. Like, I get so triggered every time I see people playing Pokemon Pokopia because I figure most people don't know about GameFly, and most Pokemon fans are not willing to hold the Pokemon Company and Game Freak up to the standards that they should be. I have literally heard one Pokemon fan, won't name any names because I don't want to gossip. I was mentioning, like, oh, hey, I wish that Pokemon games would have voice acting. And this person said, Pokemon will never have voice acting. You just got to suck it up. And I was so tempted to say back, that's what's the problem with Pokemon fans is they just suck up whatever they're given. And they don't put up a fight to get better games. And so I feel like if my channel maybe had more influence or more reach, I would love it if I had a chance to like truly make a difference in the Pokemon community because I want Pokemon games to be good. I want people to enjoy them. I want people to feel like when they pay $70, they're getting Tears of the Kingdom, not, I don't know, Animal Crossing. Not that Animal Crossing is a bad game, but it's not $70 worth. And just no one else is willing to like actually make a stand. Like, sure, Pokemon fans will complain about the same things I do, but then they'll still pay for it. Whereas I flat out said, I'm going to boycott everything Game Freak. Well, not everything. I'm going to boycott the mainstream games until they seriously start making a difference and making good products that feel like they were made in the year they came out instead of. I was watching someone stream Pokemon Legends Arceus and I said, "Oh, this game looks great for a GameCube game." And it's so embarrassing because Breath of the Wild came out before that. And Breath of the Wild, in my opinion, is, well, obviously, it's one of my favorite games because my favorite game is Tears of the Kingdom. So obviously, Breath of the Wild is my second favorite game. And the fact that that game runs so stinking well on a Wii U makes me think, what was what was the problem that happened during Arceus's development that made it so that it was lagging far behind a Wii U game? I don't know. Maybe that's just a problem with corporations. When they get too much money, they think that they can skimp on product quality. But but at the end of the day, the one thing Pokemon fans always tell me is, Paul, I'm having fun, so that's all that matters. And in some cases, I would say that's true. Like, there are plenty of games that I really love that might be like lacking those things too. Like, I know I always talk about Path of Radiance and how much I adore Path of Radiance, and I was so happy that it came on Switch too. But even though that's my favorite Fire Emblem game and probably like a top 10 games of, I don't like saying all time, but top 10 current favorite video games, even I can admit that game has problems. It has hardly any voice acting, and the voice acting that it does have is abysmal. The graphics look very amateur. Like, I know it was on the GameCube, but I would say Super Smash Bros. Melee looks better than that, and that came out like 4 years earlier with a significantly less amount of development time. And Path of Radiance has some pretty obscure recruitment methods. Like, there's one character that you have to talk to with one person, kill with another, and then that character will miraculously still be alive by the end of the chapter. And it's like, who would have ever figured that out? And, to be fair, not all of the characters are that extreme, but usually it's just very, very, very cryptic as far as what you have to do for certain characters. And but here's the thing. The good parts of Path of Radiance feel like it was a mind-blowing product for the time that it came out. And those problems have since been addressed because after Radiant Dawn, the series absolutely plummeted in sales, and Nintendo gave Intelligent Systems one more chance to make it right. They said, all right, we're going to let you make Fire Emblem Awakening, but if it doesn't do well, the series is cooked. And Intelligent Systems, they genuinely did touch up a lot of stuff that was stuff that I and many others in the retro Fire Emblem community had problems with. They they added much more voice acting and much better voice acting. Like they actually got actors who were sounding more professional. Like they got Matt Mercer to play Crom. That alone was like a winning strategy. They streamlined the gameplay a little bit so that it wasn't as like stupid hard as Radiant Dawn was. Um, they added the pair up mechanic, which I feel like was a great way to like get experience and supports faster. Generally speaking, I think the supports were a lot better. But then Awakening had other problems. But you see what I mean. The sales were so bad that Nintendo nearly canceled the series. And after Awakening genuinely listened to the fans and made some much needed changes, the series ended up, I mean, like I said, it still has some lingering problems, but for the most part, it fixed a lot of the biggest problems I had with Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn. And it got so many more people into Fire Emblem. And I'm just really happy that it seems like we're at a point where the whole like, oh, Fire Emblem is terrible because it was overdone in Smash is kind of behind us. So very happy about that. Whew. Man, you guys are quiet today. 2 likes and only one person has talked. Wow. But you know what? As long as I have my water, that's what's going to keep me alive. All right, so I was also thinking about God's mercy. And I was taking a nap today, and I had this really otherworldly experience. Like, it felt like I was being lifted up from where I was sleeping because I was taking a nap on the couch. And it kind of felt like I was being lifted up into heaven for a little bit. And it got me thinking, like, I don't know if anything I ever do will ever be good enough for the Lord. And then that got me thinking, if that were the case, Jesus wouldn't have needed to die on the cross for everyone. So obviously, every single person in the history of ever has struggled to meet up to God's standards. And just being able to hear that was so refreshing because I am the type of person that is like really hard on myself. And knowing that everyone else in the history of ever has made mistakes just like I have has really cheered me up quite a lot. My email just went, what is with everything all of a sudden? All of my other windows are like reloading for some reason. Okay, very odd. Hopefully I'm not reloading with you guys. Well, it says I'm live, so did I miss any chat as a result of that? No, I'm not seeing anything. Okay, let me ask a question here. Maybe something happened. Did the live stream disconnect? Some of my other tabs are refreshing without my input. There we go. All right, let's hope that fixes the problem. Now, just in case some of you are watching this after the fact, you might have noticed that I stopped saying the world's most boring live streamer whenever I have been uploading these. And the main reason why I started doing that is because I don't really know of any other live streamer that live streams like I do. Like, usually they'll have some kind of fancy schmancy background or special effects going. And I am just talking. I may still bring that back one of these days. But I feel like for my newer audiences that have been coming to my stuff more, and I've been having more like lively live streams where like people are talking more, and I'm feeling like I'm making some really good connections. If that's what you guys like, then maybe I don't need to call them that anymore. But at the same time, I have heard quite a lot of people say to me, Paul, you are like the one remnant of classic YouTube. I have to admit, when I first heard that, I was a little bit annoyed because it was in context of that which must not be discussed. And I said, I am not going to put myself through torment just to revive an era that I was not part of. But then it got me thinking, what if, in the context of people that don't know about that thing that bothered me, what if they want me to preserve classic YouTube in another way? Like, maybe these live streams are like a preservation of classic YouTube for some people. And they kind of miss those days when live streams would just be about talking. My numbers aren't showing anything right now, so clearly I must be wrong. Or maybe I chose a bad time to live stream. I am literally trying everything, you guys. I can't think of a consistent pattern. Like I said, my sister's on a mission trip, and I said, well, the house is free, so I'll take what I can get. But one thing I've been really happy about lately is that as I was as my room has been being cleaned out lately, I got a chance to look through some old like letters and affirmation cards, and it's really nice that so many people were willing to take the time to like handwrite these cards and these affirmations. And there was a time when I didn't really like that kind of stuff because I thought it was disingenuous. I thought that people were just saying it to make me feel better. There was one person here a second ago, and that person disappeared. I must have been onto something, so I'll keep going. I used to not like those kinds of affirmations, and I had a really hard time accepting them because a lot of those people like would stop being my friends later, and I'd be like, "Well, what was the point of getting me all happy?" And then you ended up betraying that trust. But then I got to thinking, no matter how hard you try, you can't change the past. And if that's the case, then that means that if we were to pretend that the past is like the museum where you just preserve something in time, then if there are people like me who tend to have pretty vivid memories of past events, then if once upon a time these people said these really nice things and they truly believed that at that time, then even if they decide to leave you afterward, who cares? Because you can just go back in time over and over again. Well, maybe not you. I know not everyone can do that, but I can do that. I can just go back in time to my very first mission trip. And even though there's only one person I still talk to from that mission trip, I can just replay the tape over and over again in my head of that one girl getting on the stage. And she had long black hair that was down to about here. And I don't remember exactly what she was wearing, but I think it was like a t-shirt that was either it was somewhere between like yellow and green, I think. And she was around like the middle, maybe closer to this side of the stage. And she said, "I see God every time I speak to Paul." Now, admittedly, she said my last name in there, but I'll leave that to your imagination. And the entire row of people next to me just like looked over rapidly. You'd think they had gotten whiplash. And they all said, "What?" Because my entire youth group, or at least I think most of it, knew that I was going through a really rough time prior to that mission trip. And the reason why I bring that up is because that girl and I got into a bit of a dispute after that mission trip. But once upon a time, we didn't get into a dispute and we got along. And we got along so well that she said that on the stage. And so, even if hypothetically, right now, she's thinking to herself, "Oh, that Paul, I wish he would just die a thousand deaths, and I hate his guts, and I never want to talk to him again, and he's this horrible, terrible person." I can sit here and I can say, "But you did think I was something once upon a time. Otherwise, you wouldn't have said that on the stage. And now that you said it on the stage, you can't take it back." And I know that that can be used against me. Like, I'm sure there are people that are still thinking about stuff I said years ago, and they could use that against me. But I've learned that when it comes to the past, it's a good idea to separate the good memories from the bad and not let them intermingle. Because if you let the bad memories of the past become like a time capsule, you're never going to be able to move forward. I should know because I've done that myself. Granted, when it comes to moving forward, I'm not much of that type of person. I'm more about preservation than I am about innovation. That's why I haven't written a novel in many years, haven't written songs in many years. But those good memories, heck, if no one else shows up, then no one's going to care if I reminisce about mission trips. So, shit, maybe I will. You know what? Why not? Why not? No one's interrupting me. No one's telling me to shut up. All right, let me just put that in here. Gonna blab about mission trips unless someone shuts me up. There we go. All right, perfect. We're doing this. Alrighty, so let me see if I can remember my very first mission trip in chronological order. So I remember I was a nervous wreck going into that mission trip. And when we got into the parking lot, there was this one boy who was, he was on the shorter side. He had his head bowed down. I think that was like his way of being shy and trying to like not draw too much attention to himself. And I'm pretty sure we ended up in the same van. And I don't remember what we talked about, but I'm pretty sure by the end of that van ride, we were getting along pretty darn well. And then we pulled up into the parking lot, which was at the Bishop Lane Retreat Center in Rockford, Illinois. And I started freaking out because I couldn't find my bag that had all my stuff in it, including my medication. And I was literally in tears because I thought, if I don't have that stuff, then I'm gonna be in big trouble because a lot of that is, like, stuff that's helping to curb my anxiety. And so, thankfully, it turned out that there was a hidden compartment under the seats, and one of the adult chaperones had packed my bags in that hidden compartment without me noticing. And so, thankfully, all we had to do was just pull up the chairs, reach into there, and there my stuff was. So then we had the staff members came up to us, and I'm pretty sure they got our picture, and then they said, "Yeah, we want you guys to do a rock, paper, scissors tournament." And I even remember the name of the girl that I was partnered against. Her name was Valentina, and she had dark, really dark hair, dark skin, and I'm pretty sure I either won or we tied because I don't remember losing. And I did like that to the camera. I don't know if that's an obscene gesture or not. It was meant to be a peace gesture. And we got onto the summary DVD. That's part of the reason why I loved it so much. So then we grabbed our stuff and we trekked on over to the Bishop Lane Retreat Center. And one of the first things that stuck out in my mind was, man, this place's air conditioning is great. Because we were in Illinois, which, is a relatively northern ish state, but it was certainly hotter than where I was from. And I remember it was pretty hot down there, and I'm not much of a heat person. You'd think I would be with how many times I wear t-shirts, but nope, I was not having it. And the air conditioning was so wonderful. The room was um, kind of boring, actually. Like, all it really had were a bunch of tables and a stage, but like there were these lights that shone images on the wall. And one of them said, "See, no, I think I'm getting ahead of myself." So we were directed towards where our sleeping quarters was. Well, I think first we emptied our snacks onto the table. And I remember really being happy about our snack choices because I said I would love it if our youth group was able to eat dill pickle flavored Pringles. And the youth group leader was nice enough to give it a try. And I wasn't the only one that ate them. But anyway, we got to the dorm room, we set up our stuff, and I remember taking one of the mattresses from the bed and I plopped it on the floor. I was in if you're coming from the door, the upper right corner of the room. And I was between a giant bed and a bunk bed. And there were two bunk beds to my right. And like I see it in my head, but it's hard to actually describe to you guys. And so then the other youth group showed up and they were, pretty loud and rowdy. And the adult leader came, and I don't know why he was there. I think he was like looking out for them. He leaned on the doorpost and he shook his head. And he had short brown hair and a really big beard, and he was, on the shorter side. And he just said, "Oh, I feel so sorry for you guys because you got the loudest and most rowdiest group of teenagers at this entire camp." So I was like, great, my very first mission trip. I have to deal with this. And, over time, we did eventually get along so much better. So then let's see, this was Sunday. So had to, we would have had to see this, like the instructional videos. And I remember really liking those instruction videos because the guy who was presenting them had this super deep voice. And I remember on the next mission trip, the girls really liked me imitating him because my voice isn't naturally low. So when I do make a low voice, people chuckle. And the guy kept saying, "What if?" Oh my gosh, I cannot imitate that anymore. I used to be so good at it. And then I don't remember. I guess my memory of that trip isn't perfect. Um, yeah, my memory's completely going. The only thing I remember from that Sunday was there was a boy named Jordan that was sitting at my table, and I remember marking that chair on the table and saying, "This is where I'm gonna sit for the rest of the mission trip." Playtime. There we go, Mr. Falcon. Thank you so much for interrupting me. I was only on Sunday of the mission trip, and I was literally planning on going from Sunday all the way to Friday if someone didn't interrupt me. So thank you for interrupting me. Unless you want to hear about the mission trip, then I'll keep going. But I just love talking about those trips because they were some of the greatest moments of my life. But how are you doing, Mr. Falcon? Any good news since the last time you talked? Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out a good time to do these live streams because I know the poll said evenings were the best times, but then I don't want to bother. Um, I don't want to bother the people upstairs. So it's a learning process. Just left church. Very nice. How did church go? I know in the Catholic Church, I didn't even know this until just recently. I feel so silly that Stations of the Cross at most churches are done every Friday, and that's been a tradition that's been around, I think the priest said like 800 years. So I was like, dang, that's pretty cool. I thought the Stations of the Cross were just kind of a, oh, whenever people feel like doing it. I didn't know it was like a Friday tradition. So that's pretty cool. Just curious, Mr. Falcon. Um, Have you ever heard my mission trip stories? Because I know that my friends in real life generally don't like me talking about them, but online, I haven't really heard anyone come up to me and say, "Oh, your mission trip stories are terrible." So I'm just curious, like, are you one of those people that's heard the stories over and over? Oh, you've heard them. Okay. I guess I'll shut up then, because I don't want to bore you guys. But when something that significant happens to you, like why wouldn't you want to talk about it? Like, I remember in the Gospels, there were constant mentions of people that were healed by Jesus. And then Jesus said, don't tell anyone about what happened. And then the Gospel said, and they went and they spread the word about Jesus to all the countryside. And when I first read the Gospels, I thought that that was so stupid because it's like, why wouldn't you listen to Jesus? In the Gospel, it said he spoke harshly to them. But now I get it. Now I really, really get it because I had so much fun on those mission trips that I ended up for every single one of them, except I think like three of them. And I went on eight altogether to put that into perspective. I ended up making like Facebook notes of them. And I went into excruciating detail about everything that I could remember. And even after I wrote the Facebook notes, I realized that not everyone read them. So then I wanted to tell them to other people. Coolest city I went on for a mission trip? Ooh, Oil City, Pennsylvania. It wasn't my favorite mission trip, but it was the coolest city because the weather was really nice because it was, I think it was July 4th when I know it was July 4th when we went there because wait, no, I'm thinking of 2016. But no, the one where we went to Oil City, Pennsylvania, the weather was really, really nice. There were actually girls wearing long sleeve shirts, which, hardly ever happens. And it was very hilly, very, very like this pleasant dark green type of aesthetic. There were a lot of trees. And after we took showers, we were able to like take a walk back to the main school. Oh, it was absolutely beautiful. Ever been to the Pacific Northwest? I probably have, but the thing about me is that I don't really like traveling, so I tend to kind of, not pay too much attention to the scenery. Because for me, I like to have a genuine, unforgettable experience when I travel. I don't like to just do it for its own sake. So, like, back when I was a child, my parents would always want to just travel to, "Oh, this place because it has pretty scenery," and I'd be like, "Why do I have to be cramped in a car for 3 weeks just to look at stuff?" Nowadays, I'll like if I travel, I will go to, I don't know, see a friend, or like, I don't know, maybe I'd see Harry Potter World. Highly doubt it because I've heard those prices were ridiculous and the weather is nasty. And I always told myself if I were to ever go to Harry Potter World, I'd probably want to be staying with a friend who lives nearby so that I wouldn't have to endure all that heat and all the lines and potentially miss out on everything. And if I'm being honest, like my brother went to Harry Potter World and he showed me a bunch of pictures of it. And I remember thinking, I actually feel good enough just looking at his pictures. I don't feel like I need to be there. I think I'd like it if I was there. I'd just be too busy sweating to be fully enjoying myself. Because if there's one thing you got to know about me, is when it's too hot, my desire to cool down usually overrides every other emotion. So even when I was visiting Isabel for the very first time, I was so happy to see her. But whenever it was hot outside, all that joy and all that happiness just completely vanished. And I was just like, get me in the air conditioning as quickly as possible. Thankfully, she was very accommodating for that. And I was very happy about that. But yeah, a couple of other places I've traveled to. Um, one place that my parents did take me to that I really liked was we climbed Mount Washington. And I really liked Mount Washington a lot because the weather was nice and cool. We climbed so high on that mountain that our hair started getting wet, even though it wasn't raining, just because we were in the clouds. And I just thought that was such a cool sensation. And I loved the feeling of the cool breeze on my cheeks. And at one point I just said, like, you know what, this does feel like paradise because we were just surrounded by nothing but rocks. And there were all these clouds surrounding us. And it was an eerie sight. Kind of felt a little bit like hell if hell was cold. But thankfully we got out of it. And I was really athletic back then. I probably still am. I just haven't put myself in that kind of position in a while. And so I was like jumping along all the rocks. My brothers were even worse. They were like running up the mountain. And I remember that was the last family vacation I ever went on. And I just said, never again. The Mount Washington was cool, but everything else was terrible. And I am just never, ever going to travel unless it's for a really good cause. And from that day, all the way until, let's see, it was a long time before I traveled again. I think it was like 4 years. No, 2 years. No, 3 years. Because then I went on a conference with my youth group. And that conference ended up being both one of the worst times of my life and one of the best times of my life simultaneously. You can there's a video I made called My Experiences at the Steubenville Youth Conference if you guys are curious what happened on that trip. But long story short, it was hot. My youth group didn't like me very much. The ones that did, I didn't really speak to that much after that, so that was unfortunate. There was a girl that I met while I was sitting down on a hill that I really enjoyed talking to, but I didn't think my dad liked it when I got phone numbers from strangers, only to find out he wished I had. Because I think he knew that I really needed some good friends at that time in my life. And I think he knew that youth group just wasn't doing it for me. And I think deep down inside, he was like, I think you guys could have been long lasting friends if only you hadn't misunderstood me. And to be fair, that is something I regret. But as I said, you can't only let the past be about the bad memories, or else you're never ever going to you're never going to move forward. You got to do the reverse of being trapped in the past. You got to be trapped in the good memories. And that's why I will never say no to someone saying, "Go ahead and blab about mission trip," because almost everything on those mission trips was just a net positive. Sure, every single mission trip had something that happened that I was like, this could be better," but most of those cons were, like, vastly overweighed by the pros. In fact, I don't even think I remember most of the cons of most of these mission trips because the good stuff just overrode them. Hmm. I know that, I don't really talk about my teenage years a whole lot, and that's mainly because I was so ashamed of myself when I was a teenager. I know every teenager goes through their immaturity phase, but I don't know. I feel like for someone who was born and raised Catholic, who had a really strong set of practicing Catholic parents, I probably could have done so much better. But credit where credit is due. I do remember really liking the conferences and the retreats that I went on as a teenager. I don't think I've actually talked about those that much. I remember my very first retreat was very hit or miss because I was pretty hormonal during that time. Um, didn't take much to set me off. I think part of it was nerves. I had never. No, that's not true. Because I had been on that conference with my other youth group. But I do remember thinking it was like the highlight of my year because I really liked the dances that we did. Um, One of the guys danced so well that he got on YouTube. And back then we thought that this was a super prestigious like thing. We were like, "Oh my gosh, he got on YouTube. That means we're going to make it big." Oh, our teenage minds were so innocent and so sheltered. And I remember, I better not say that, but let's just say we had no clue what constituted good YouTube back then. But I do remember that the guy that was on the video was dressed in a pink suit with a pink tie, and he had this wig that made him look like he had long hair. I think it was even longer than mine is now. And I remember I liked when we went hiking on the retreat. That was pretty cool. There was a lake that we weren't allowed to swim in, but I was afraid of the water back then, so I didn't get a chance to go swimming. But I do remember thinking the lake was this really beautiful area. And on one of my retreats, my prayer partner and we chose the seats by the lake as like our spot where we would pray together. I haven't thought of that memory in years. So thank you guys. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I know you haven't said much, but you said enough to get me reminiscing. I think the main reason why I don't like talking about the retreats as much as I like talking about the conferences are that retreats are meant to be this really sacred time where you're like relaxing and you're trying to get closer to God on a more personal level. And I think because I was already like a super hormonal, easily agitated teenager, I just don't think that was the right thing for me at that point in my life. But when I went to the conferences, there was way more of an emphasis on excitement and like cheering about your faith. And I think that's what I needed is I needed the optimism. I needed to be able to I needed to be able to have some kind of excitement. And those conferences did such a good job of really making me think that Catholicism was a big deal. But it wasn't like, yes, they were Catholic, but they didn't, like, try to shove it in your face. It was more so of, like, the Catholicism would be like an undertone. If you're wondering why I'm going so quiet, it's because I like reminiscing, but not everyone likes it when I reminisce. So I'm weighing my options here. Should I risk reminiscing? Or should I just not reminisce for the sake of people maybe not wanting to hear about my experiences? Then if I don't reminisce, I don't know what I'd talk about, honestly. I I may like video games a lot, but if there's something I like more than video games, it's my experiences. That's why when I think about video games, I generally have an easier time remembering games I've already played than looking forward to games I haven't. Like if you were to ask me, Paul, what's the game you're most excited about now? Well, I wouldn't be able to answer that because that game hasn't been publicly announced yet. I got a teaser of it before it was officially revealed. Besides that game, probably Danganronpa 2 by 2 is the game I'm excited about the most right now because it's going to give me an opportunity to replay Danganronpa 2 from a new perspective. But I don't think about Danganronpa 2 by 2 all that much. I think about I have this list on my desktop that has the names of every single game I've ever reviewed. In fact, let me look it up right now. I got it right here. And literally every single one of these reviews is still up, except for two of them. I have reviewed 412 video games, and it brings me a lot of joy to think about those 412 video games. And sometimes that's the only way I can go to sleep is I will try to name all 412 video games, and I usually get maybe like 10 of them. But I just get such a rush of dopamine from familiarity and things that I've done, and that brings me more joy than thinking about the future. Because the future tends to fill me with a lot of anxiety because I used to be a bit more ambitious than I am now. But then after COVID happened, it got me thinking that nothing in the future is certain. I mean, I'd been thinking that for a long time, but I like doubly thought about it during COVID. But then I started getting another perspective on the future, and that's if you don't at least try to experiment, what if something happens that's like COVID again? That makes it so that you have to wait even longer before you try stuff. And that's why I started going to Comic Con, was because I said, I do not want to take all these great experiences for granted. I want to give Comic Con a try and see if I like it. And I ended up loving it so much that if I don't go to Comic Con this year, I'm going to be very, very, very sad. Speaking of Comic Con, has anyone else ever been to Comic Con? Highly doubt anyone's listening to me at this point, but just in case, figured I'd throw that out there. Um, but yeah, COVID was literally the reason why I went to Comic Con. Was I took too much in my life for granted, and I said just in case something like COVID ever happens again, I'm gonna just do it. I'm gonna try it, and maybe I'll end up liking it, and I did. Although, to be fair, I think I tried a great amount of things. For someone who's so afraid of change and discomfort, I was pretty open minded, all things considered. Like, I went on 8 mission trips for crying out loud, and all 8 of them were before COVID. And that takes a lot of courage. Like, I know I always talk about the glamorous parts of the mission trip, but nearly every single one of them, I nearly gave up before they happened. In fact, my very first mission trip, I almost didn't go on it because I was talking to my friend Jessica on Facebook, and she didn't know that I was going on a mission trip. And she said, "Hey, Paul, I was wondering if we could hang out. Um, I'm free on July 4th. How would you feel about that?" And I said, "Oh, that'd be great. Let me just cancel the mission trip that I'm going on, and then we can go ahead and hang out." And she said, "No, no, no, don't you do that. I don't want you to miss out." The thing that I think she forgot to take into consideration is that I was dead serious. I was so nervous. I was I had been to a conference before, but I'd never been on a mission trip, and that conference was so bad that it made me scared to go on the mission trip, but then I did, and I loved it, and again, I went on 7 more, um, and I've been on so many conferences, you guys, that it's probably gonna amaze you, but it gives me more joy to think about what I've already been to than it does to think about what I could go to. Like, I get more dopamine out of reflecting on guests that I've met at Comic-Con than guests that I could meet at future Comic-Cons. So I think, like, my goal in life, whenever I do think about the future, is I like to think about creating new memories that I'll reminisce on later. And generally speaking, when I seek out new memories to reminisce on, um, I tend to look for what is the most, like, similar to what I'm reminiscing about. So, like, why do I keep going to Comic-Con now? Because I went to Comic-Con before, and I wanna relive it. I wanna be back in that room full of the white floor and the white noise machine and the way that the booths are designed, and I want that familiarity to just come flooding back into my brain. There is a part of me that wants the newness factor as well. As I've gotten older, I've started to realize that change, innovation, new things, there's some value in that. I remember when the Nintendo 64 came out, I remember thinking, well, why the heck should we even innovate? And I've since learned that innovation can provide for new, timeless video game experiences. And so I'm really glad that we have stuff like the Switch 2 because I feel like the Switch 2 is like the perfect compromise between my point of view and the more intuitive abstract point of view because this is iterative of the Switch. Like you could look at this isolated if someone like sized it down and probably think that it was just a regular Switch. The menu is almost identical and really the only thing that's truly innovative about this console is the HD Rumble. Like, sure, it's got a microphone, but we had that on the DS, and it's got mouse mode, which PCs have had mouse mode for eons. But for people like me who like the familiarity, this can help to expand upon the familiarity. It can say, okay, we'll make similar ish games. But these games will now be able to have extra features that couldn't have been done on the Switch. And that's why I hope that going forward, I'm looking at the reflection of my Switch 2 and I can like see the stream in the reflection and it's like really, really shiny. It's like super duper cool. But yeah, like when the Wii first came out, I thought it was really cool. And then when the Wii U first came out, I thought, well, I'm not getting that unless there's good games for it. And when the Switch came out, um, I'm pretty sure the first thing that popped into my head was, this looks way better than the Wii U. But for some reason, I didn't get it until, I think, 2018, maybe? No, I think I got it in 2017, but just not at launch day. Speaking of the Switch, how many of you guys have a Switch 2? I don't think I ever asked that. Ooh, I'm just loving the reflections here. There's just so much you can see. Ooh. Very, very nice. But yeah, I looked at my friend list on my Switch 2, and I only have 4 people on my friend list who have game chat. But I am so grateful for those 4 friends because it's like we have an unofficial exchange of phone numbers. And like every single one of them, was it every single one of them? 3 of them have allowed me to do surprise game chats. And I remember feeling like it was such this, like, game chat to me still hasn't worn off its novelty. I love how the microphone is so good at picking up on people's voices. And it's so good at, like, isolating our voices so that nothing else is heard. And it's great that, like, it's like a good, really good replacement for Discord because I can carry this thing just about anywhere. And the portability factor is really the biggest reason why I stick to Nintendo is because there's like you can literally take this thing anywhere. And whenever I like have to clear out in the basement, it's nice to be able to have the option to just play in my bedroom or take it to a friend's house. But the Switch 2 was given to me partially as a birthday gift. And I am beyond grateful for every single one of my family members for gifting me. Ooh, before I forget, I was thinking of what I was going to do for April Fool's Day this year. And I had an idea, but that idea, I decided I wasn't going to end up doing it as a video because I thought it would be mean spirited. But then I thought, but this is you guys we're talking about. You guys have an opportunity to do a back and forth so that we can get a conversation going in real time. So I was wondering, and I'm going to post this in chat just in case some of you show up late. Do you want me to reveal my original plan for an April Fool's Day video here on Livestream? There we go. Because I wanted to do something really creative. It involved an alternate timeline, and it involved me like gushing, and it involved me really trying to think about like how things could have played out. But then I thought, well, I don't want to come across like I'm insulting my audience. But then, like literally just now, it popped into my head of maybe you guys are going to be different. Maybe you guys will see some nuance. Because if I'm going to be brutal with you guys, you all are like the nicest people I have ever encountered on my channel. Like, it's pretty darn rare for me to get comments that are even half as good as some of the stuff you guys say in live streams. Like that one live stream where Melissa showed up, that might have been the kindest live stream I've ever had. I mean, admittedly, it made me chuckle, but you guys kept saying things like, "Oh, Paul, you have such a great personality that I bet you could get 1,000 people at these live streams." Heck, I'm struggling to even get 2 right now. So I don't know what you guys were thinking. But I figure that might be like a good way of getting people interested in live streams is what if my live streams are kind of like the archive for videos that I'd like to make, but maybe it just wouldn't make sense, or maybe like I wouldn't want to do them the old fashioned way where I just talk in front of a camera. maybe you guys would like this old-fashioned style and you'd like being able to see it in real time. Because I remember when I used to have a Patreon, um, a couple of my Patreon subscribers really liked it when I would post exclusive videos. Ooh, it's John Paul. Thank you so much. Hey, you know what? Better late than never, John Paul. Glad you could make it. How have you been doing lately? And hey, feel free to send a whole bunch of messages spamming what you've been up to, because I've been talking too much by myself because everyone has been shy today. So uh, if you have to go to explain yourself, that's gonna make my day. So go for it. But yeah, I've been doing really great lately, John Paul. I've been having really good people in my live streams. And I got this new T-shirt, which I've been showing off a lot. It's the avatar of Ty the One Up guy, who's my favorite YouTuber. And we actually have become friends. And it's so great that like his shop has become like my unofficial way to commission him. Hmm. But yeah, while you're oh oh, thank you. Glad to hear it. Um, while I'm waiting for you to type, John Paul, um, I was curious if you liked, I don't know if you were here or not when I said this, because YouTube doesn't tell me who's watching unless you guys comment. But I was asking if you wanted these live streams to be like like a secondary video service. Like maybe I wouldn't make a video on a certain topic, but I'd make a live stream about a topic so that there could be a discussion going on to make it more interesting. Like, I had this big April Fool's video planned. And I thought maybe I shouldn't release that because that would be too mean-spirited. But maybe you guys, since you're hearing it live, maybe you'd catch some nuance that didn't come across in a scripted video. Who am I kidding? I never script my videos, but you know what I mean. A video that I can like edit and cut out the uninteresting parts. So I'm genuinely curious if that's something you guys want to see. That'll give me motivation to keep live streaming. That and a couple of the regulars seem to be really enjoying themselves, which really makes my day. Because 'cause I'm sure you remember, John Paul, I used to call myself the world's most boring live streamer, and I genuinely believed that. To this day, I kinda still believe it. Um, I'm just very behind on technology, and I have no clue how to stream video game footage. But at the same time, that's what everyone else does, and I'm not really the type of person that likes following trends. So I kinda like being unique. It's like your brother used to say, John Paul. He used to say Paulism forever and just Paulism. And like these are polished streams. These are the kind of streams that only I'm doing. No VTuber models, no gaming. I mean, yes, obviously I play video games, but not on stream with you guys. And if you guys like it, doesn't stop me from thinking that if I were to ever watch these streams, well, I think I'd really like these kind of streams if I'm being honest. Like, um, good at holding conversations. That means a lot to me, John Paul, because I, uh, I, I've always been hypercritical of my social skills. Um, I haven't exactly had the smoothest teenage years, shall we say. And so hearing that I've overcome a lot of those struggles really means a lot. Because I used to be like I was shy, but I didn't want to make it obvious. Like I always told myself that if you're going to be shy, don't let anyone ever think that you are. Because if they think that you are, then they're going to have a hard time talking to you. And I don't ever want people to feel uncomfortable talking to me. And so I told myself that I was going to talk to every single person in the youth group, no matter how scared I was. And by the time I graduated youth group, I did. I literally talked to every single person in the youth group, every single adult, every single teenager, even the bullies I talked to. Might have been to my detriment, but I tried. And to this day, I don't think I've ever like quite reached enough bravery to do that again. But like I still would always make sure that people would mistake me for this more enthusiastic person. But yeah, that means a lot to me. That's really great. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Hmm. I've also noticed that I've been getting a bit more energetic at these streams. A bit of foraging recently. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. Knife building. So what kind of stuff do you forage, JP? I don't think you ever told me that. Either that or you have and it's just been so long. My brother actually owns a carpentry company. So, um, it's really great having him around because whenever we do stuff like renovations or cleaning, he's always the one we talk to. Mostly forge tools, very nice. Do you think with your ability to forge tools, do you think you'll ever be able to go on like, I don't know, a survival trip or like a reality show or something like that where they say like you have to survive 21 days in this kind of environment? I've always found those shows both like, I kinda like them and I hate them at the same time, if that makes any sense. Like, I like the idea of people appreciating the finer things in nature and, like, when they do find something that's gonna give them sustenance, they're just so thankful for it. But then there's the other part of me that thinks about all the other discomforts, and I just say, "Yeah, that's not me." I probably wouldn't last 2 days if I were forced to do one of those. I have gone rustic camping before, but I don't think I'll ever do that again. The older I've gotten, the more I realize that my hair is it requires a lot of maintenance. And if I don't shower every 2 days, my hair is gonna look like Severus Snape's, but brown. And when I was younger, I don't think I took care of my hair as much as I do now. People were too polite to say anything, and then when people finally did say something, then I started getting really sad. And I said, "Well, you know what? I think it's about time that I start, like, taking my hair a lot more seriously." So that's why you typically see a lot more, that's why you typically don't see as much loose pieces of hair hanging down as you used to. Shows like Survivor Man, Alone the Beast, very nice. I haven't heard of any of those, John Paul, so if you want to talk about them, go for it. I'd love to hear about them. I don't watch too many survival shows, but the ones that I have watched make me so grateful that I'm not the one in them. The closest I've ever come to doing like a survival show is the mission trips, which obviously you know I was on one of them with you. That's how we met. And to me, mission trips were always a big test of my endurance because I got homesick on every single mission trip. And even though on the most recent one, our beds were so comfortable, I, at the same time, had to make quite a lot of sacrifices to make Catholic Heart work. But thankfully, on the one that you and I met on, the beds were so comfortable, and I had a closet to put my stuff in, and the air conditioning. Sometimes the air conditioning was too good in that room, but we were able to manually adjust it ourselves. The shower was nice. And being an associate staff member meant that I had the opportunity to go up to the room by myself and kind of just take things at my own pace, which was great. But yeah, not much of an experimental guy. Which makes me amazed that I went to Catholic Heart as much as I did, honestly. Speaking of Catholic Heart, JP, I've got some really good news for you. Um, I don't think I'll ever go to Catholic Heart again. I would like to. Believe me, if someone gave me the opportunity, I would take it in a heartbeat, but I just don't think that's likely at this point. But what is likely is that I now have a job where I'm the assistant catechist for 4th and 5th graders. And every time I ask the youth minister, is there anything I can do with the older kids? Is there anything I can do with the high schoolers? She always says, no, I don't think we have enough kids. But then I asked my sister, like, are the glory days of stuff like CHWC and NCYC and Steubenville over? Well, let me see what you said about this first. Survivor Man was filmed by one guy who survived for a week in at time with stuff in his pockets. That is so cool. But yeah, I haven't even gotten to the good part. Don't say that's cool yet. So then I was praying with my sister who has the charism of prophecy. And ooh, I don't think I told you the first time she prayed over me. Let me tell you about both of them, unless someone interrupts me. But I have a feeling no one's going to want to when they hear this. So one time, my sister prayed over me, and I don't remember what I asked her. But I think one thing that I said was like, I hope God's not ashamed of me of all my mistakes. And my sister was so amazed by what God told her to tell me that she was like shaking. She was like, whoa, this is powerful stuff, Paul. And God revealed to her through the reason why he put me, as in me, Paul, on this earth. And again, she was the one that heard it, not me. So I could be misquoting here, but it went something like this. Paul, the reason why I put you on this earth was because you are really good at strengthening and encouraging other people. And you are the type of, I don't think he said it in this casual of terms, but he basically said, Paul, you are the type of guy that I'm as excited about as you would be if Banjo 3 was announced. And I was so mind blown by that I had my sister pray over me another time. And the second time she prayed over me was almost as powerful. I asked her to pray like, are these glory days all over? Am I never going to go to CHWC again? Am I never going to go to Steubenville again? And again, God talked to her, not me, but from what I could gather, he said something along the lines of, don't expect all these experiences to be exactly the same as what happened when you were at your old house. Things have changed, but I ain't done with you yet. So, assuming I was understanding her correctly, there should be something coming up that I'll be able to do. And just, I don't know how long it's going to be. He didn't say when and where. There was another prayer session where my sister heard God say, Paul, I have a really good future plan for you, but I know that you like to stress out over logistics. So don't worry about the when and the how. Just trust me. I got this. Because if you know anything about me, JP, I'm sure I mentioned it on a mission trip. Me and the future tend to not get along very well. I'm not a futuristic person. I'm not a visionary. I'm not really one that likes to entertain um, what could be's. And if I do, it's usually worst case scenario. So to hear that straight from God saying, don't stress about it, I've got a good future for you, that really meant a lot to me because um, I'm the type of guy that basically says, like, everything in the future is scary. And to be told that it won't be scary, that it'll actually be a good future, oh, that meant so much to me. And it makes me so grateful for my sister because God gave her that gift of prophecy. And I think I have the gift of prophecy as well, but I'm not 100% sure. I just know that the few people that I prayed over at Four Corners, usually really got a lot out of what I had to say, except for one guy, but I won't repeat that story. But besides him, I'm pretty sure every single person I ever got a chance to pray over said that they really got something out of that prayer session. And I'm just so thankful that God can use me to be his mouthpiece of sorts. Which, now that I think about it, that's usually an honor that's given to prophets. But then you always hear those verses where it says, at your confirmation, you're given the seal of the Holy Spirit, and that makes you anointed to be priest, prophet, and king. Now, I remember my first confirmation. Well, you only get one confirmation. So I remember my confirmation was really, really powerful. I was about 12 when it happened, and I know that's pretty early because I've heard a lot of people say they didn't get confirmed until they were 16. But I was homeschooled, and the religious ed teacher at the time said, if you're homeschooled, your parents have probably taught you way more than this class ever could. All we'll require of you is you just take one class with us, and then you research your confirmation saint and just write an essay about why you want this person to be your confirmation saint. So I chose Saint Joseph, and I said it was because he was a good role model of how to live out chastity. And I just said, I want to be that kind of humble servant that thinks about other people before I think about using them as a sex object. And so again, I was 12 and they liked the essay, so I was able to go forward with confirmation. And after the priest sealed my forehead, I remember feeling this burning sensation around my heart. And at the time, I didn't know what it meant, but now I do. That was the moment where I knew that I was called to do something better. Because I'm pretty sure when I went into confirmation, I had the mindset of, now that I'm confirmed, God is giving me the grace to do more. And I do feel like ever since I was confirmed, I have had some amazing moments that I can attribute directly to God. Don't get me wrong, I've had amazing gaming moments as well. But after I was confirmed, it was a slow process, I will admit. I was around, I think, 16 or 17 when I first figured out that Jesus loved me as an individual. And I was around, I think I was 18 or 19 when I first really felt the call to do something about it. But the confirmation, I feel like, was where it started. And it was around the time that I was 17 that I told myself that I wanted to either be a youth minister or I wanted to be a chaperone, and it happened. Hail to the whale, Paul. I don't think I've ever heard that saying before, Jevil, but welcome in. Glad you could make it. You missed all the gushy stories about religion. But have you have you heard any recent gaming news that maybe I missed? Because I know you're always my good informant. Oh yeah, that's right. You guys do know each other. That's cool. I forgot about that. Well, you know each other from this stream, I mean. Jeffel, were you there when I mentioned that I was going to try out Mario versus Donkey Kong, or am I thinking of someone else? I think I told you, but I don't remember. Well, I'll say it again because JP wasn't here that last time. Mario versus Donkey Kong, the original game, um, is coming to Nintendo Switch Online or Nintendo Classics now. And I played the remake on the Switch, which was my number 8 game of 2024. So now I can finally play the original. So I'm really looking forward to that. From Skylanders. Okay, that explains why I hadn't heard of it. I haven't really played Skylanders a whole lot. I played the one on the Wii U, and I think I had either the Donkey Kong or the Bowser amiibo, and it was a mess. So I never ended up finishing it. But I thought it was cool that thanks to that we got this really cool design for Donkey Kong and Bowser. And fun fact, both of those designs made it into Mario Kart World. How many of you knew that? Raise your hand, or well, I guess you can't raise your hand in chat, but let me know how many of you knew that they referenced Skylanders in Mario Kart World. I bet you knew that, Jevil, but I'm curious about the rest of you because it says 3 of you are watching, but I'm only seeing 2, so I got an invisible person out there. Oh, man. But it seems like I always jinx the counter every time I mention it, because like, there have been live streams in the past where, like, I would get, like, maybe 1 person, I'd say, "Hello, 1 person who is watching," and then the counter would switch to 0 as soon as I finished saying that. So I've learned to just pretend that I'm not seeing that number that's right about here and just allow people to come in and out whenever they want. Fun fact, a guy from church you met gave you his Skylander collection. Oh, wow. That is great, Jevil. I'm glad you had that opportunity. Very nice. You know, I know you're saying mixed bag as a figure of speech, but I figure if he gave you his collection, then that would be a bag of mixed Skylanders figures. Ooh, guys, you made me so happy. I didn't take a drink of water for a really long time, so thank you for that. I actually have so much water left over. Usually I'm so much thirstier. I think I'm just getting used to this. And I think maybe I've like amassed an audience that seems to like me more than the previous ones that live streamed. I don't know. Oh, before I forget, you guys weren't here when I said this earlier, but while I was trying to pass the time to get people to talk, I was talking about how my Virtual Boy video was received. Currently, it still has more likes than dislikes, but quite a lot of people didn't like it. And I got, you're doing 100. Oh, good. Oh, I'm so glad, Jevil. Very glad to hear that. It's been updated quite a lot since I reviewed it, so I think it should be much smoother. But it's a long game. A retro gaming store with a Nintendo 64, very nice. Um, I don't know if I'll ever play my Nintendo 64 again because this kind of replaces it. But I still have the Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie cartridges just in case the servers get shut down. But as I was saying, yeah, before either of you showed up, I was talking about how there were a lot of people that didn't like my Virtual Boy video. And one person flat out made a falsehood. He or she said, Nintendo never made an official statement saying that Nintendo Labo was incompatible with VR. I did like 2 seconds of research and I found the statement. So it makes me wonder if people even know how to do Google. I don't technically use Google actually. Fun fact, I use Bing as my search engine. I don't know why. I guess it just kind of happened one day. Like my search engine became Bing and I didn't know how to change it to Google, but honestly, I wouldn't be able to tell you the difference besides that there's a lot more AI summaries, but I just pretend that those don't exist because I'm trying my best to boycott AI unless if it's Tomodachi Life. If Tomodachi Life does it, then I am going to make an exception because I love the AI voice acting in that game. It is so great, but that's why I muted the dialogue in Endless Ocean Luminous because it was done with AI and it was terrible. Asabel hated it even more than I did, and she didn't even play the game. If you watched my Best Games of 2024 video all the way to the end, Asabel did a stand-up comedy routine, and she said some pretty harsh things about AI in that video that was way worse than anything I said about it. And the cool thing about Isabel is that she and I may be different religions, but we agree on pretty much everything on a moral level. It's just that she's more into the ritualistic aspect of religion, and I'm more about like um, the traditional aspect, like looking at everything in context, as opposed to taking the Bible at face value. Hey, Jevil, as long as you're gonna do it eventually, that is fine by me. That makes my day because I wish I would have put 100 line on my best games of 2025 video, but that Cult of Takumi route, which I won't spoil, but if you find a spoiler-free walkthrough, find a way to avoid that one. It is disgusting as heck. And the game was also very slow and repetitive at times, but when it was good, it was very good. I almost want to like make a retrospective video saying why 100 Line was so great, but also why it was abandoned on my best games list. But it was close. I almost put it on there. I think it was like number 11 or number 12. It was pretty high up there. Mario vs. Donkey Kong Remake is $40. Very nice. That's great. I think it is the kind of game that I would probably say is worth like between $30 and $40. The remake at the very least. The GBA original, well, I haven't played it, but from what I've seen, I would say it's probably like a $20 to $30 game. From what I heard, it has quite a lot of worlds. So, and Charles Martinet like talks probably more than he's ever talked in any other Mario game. So I'm looking forward to that too. But yeah, then some other guy was trying to convince me that people's feelings don't matter when he was mentioning modding, and I said, "Well, I don't know. People might feel kind of morally icky if they emulate or mod stuff." And then he said, "Spit in one hand and feelings in the other. In the end, feelings aren't real." And at that point, I just couldn't take that person seriously anymore. And I said, "Yeah, I think I'm gonna I think I'm gonna stick with what I'm doing. Thank you very much." But yeah, as I've gotten older, I've started to realize that emotions are in the part of the brain that's called the amygdala, and the amygdala is responsible for what we call the smoke detector. And whenever you have any kind of emotion, even if it doesn't make sense, there's usually some kind of underlying reason that the brain is putting that emotion there for the sake of self preservation. So it got me thinking, in the past, I may not show a whole lot of my emotions besides excitement outwardly, but I would notice that the most frequent emotion that I would feel on the inside is sadness. And at the time, I just thought, whoa, I'm just randomly feeling sad. And then I'd move on. But then I'd get sad again. I'd wonder, why am I sad? But I'd never know what to do with it. So once I started talking to my therapist, and she said the whole thing about the amygdala, that got me thinking, oh, well, you know what? If my emotions are trying to tell me something, then if I listen to my emotions, then maybe, just maybe, that could help me to live longer. And my goal in life is I want to live as long as possible so that my nieces and nephews and my friends and my family can feel like nothing has changed. Because that's what I told everyone at the gym when I was laid off is I just said, "Hey, I got a complimentary membership and I'm going to keep coming to this gym, maybe not as frequently as when I worked here, but as often as possible so that you guys can feel like I'm still there even though I'm not." And that And as far as, like, self-preservation, I know that say I were to die tomorrow, that would make a lot of people very sad. And so that's why I'm trying my darndest to eat relatively healthy and just do whatever I can to preserve myself because I just don't wanna make my niece cry. You looked at the eShop, you see Shoot in Order. I haven't played Shoot in Order yet, but once the physical version comes out, that's when I plan on doing it because when it first came out, it was $50. And considering what happened to World's End Club, I said, I don't think I trust Kodaka enough to pay for one of his games full out without renting it. So it's planned. I have the release date somewhere around here. Let me see if I can find it. I think it's on my Gamefly, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll look that up real quick. I think it's in April. I believe it was April 24th, if I'm not mistaken. All right, pulling up my queue right now. Ooh, my Gamefly is looking empty. Why isn't Shoot in Order on here? Oh, here it is. I found it. April 23rd. Now that's when it comes out, not when I'm going to get it, because rentals usually take a while. But from what I've seen of Shoot and Order, it looks like it's a pretty good game. Won't be on my best games of 2026 video because again, playing it late, but I do plan on it. I heard that it's like 5 different genres in one game. And like each genre is a different way of interrogating a possible murderer. And I thought that's cool, just not $50 cool. Whew. So this live stream actually started out really slow. And thanks to you guys, you've really helped me not feel like it was a waste of time. So I'm really glad that you showed up and stopped me from going on and on about my mission trip. Because as much as I love reminiscing, I don't want to only. Oh, yes, I did know about the demo for 100 Line. In fact, I played that because I was impatient for my rental. The demo gives you the first 7 days of your 100 days of the first ending. And you might think, oh, that's nothing. But those days are surprisingly long. I feel like I feel like the demo of 100 Line, I would estimate, is probably about as long as the entirety of Deltarune in its current state. And to think that that's just a demo. So you're going to be on the main game for a very long time, especially if you're trying to get the true ending, because there's 100 endings, and some of them are clearly better than others. And in my personal opinion, once I got the true ending, I said, okay, that's good enough. I'm done. But I'm pretty sure Kotaro Uchikoshi wrote that particular ending, and you know me, I'm always going to prefer him over the Danganronpa dude. And it felt like this is the closest thing we're ever going to get to a Zero Escape 4 at this point, and it was glorious. So I'm glad I put in the work. Oh, John Paul, I hope I didn't leave you out there. Have you been playing any cool games lately? Hmm. There's a deluxe version of 100 Line? I only bought the base game, and I thought that was like the base game was so huge that it took me roughly 3 months to get the true ending. So I would say even the base game is going to give you a lot of content. It probably won't take you 3 months to beat it because when I first played it, there were a lot of technical limitations and they've since updated it so that they're not as bad. Like there were certain battles that you couldn't skip, and then after the update you could skip battles that were too similar. And then there was like this, like you could skip the cutscenes, but you have to like hold down the button. And then after the update, they made it so that you could um, hold down the button for a shorter amount of time. Then there were like these announcements that would always play, kind of like how Danganronpa would do it, that you couldn't skip. And then in the update, they let you skip it. In my personal opinion, I'm not the biggest fan of that game's soundtrack. The only song in that entire soundtrack that I like is the boss battle theme. Um, it's very Danganronpa coded, so I would say just do you like Danganronpa type of soundtracks? If you do, you're gonna love it. If not, don't bother. But the game does have really good artwork. Some lewd artwork in there too. I know that's not really a problem for you, Jevil, but uh, it has some imagery that I wish I could scrub free in my brain. But thankfully, they censored some of it on the Switch version, so at least that's nice. Um, I think there's also like a prequel novel that's included with the digital deluxe where it talks about a certain character's backstory. So I would say that would be worth it alone. Because if I'm thinking, because I forgot to check the name of that character, but if it's the one I'm thinking about, that sounds like that'd be very, very interesting. And speaking of 100 Line, the creator has recently come out and said that he plans on supporting the game for like over 10 years with like some kind of DLC, maybe even a Switch 2 edition. You know I'm going to review it if there's a Switch 2 edition. Good for you, Jevil. I'm sure the soundtrack is on YouTube somewhere that you could probably just listen to it there. Oh, thanks a bunch, JP. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Yes, Paulism for life. Absolutely. And I still have that t-shirt too. Dang, this stream just skyrocketed in popularity. Like, I think we're at the peak of likes and views at this point. Dang, you guys are great. Oh, it's Hey Girl. Thanks for showing up. Glad you could make it. Any good news lately, Hey Girl? Speaking of which, I wanted to ask you. Remember how I said that I responded to your comment on the pools video? I was just curious if you happened to see that comment because you'd be surprised how many people have no clue that I responded to them, even though I respond to literally every comment I ever get. Don't promote yourself. What? It said I do want you to self promote. No, that I'll go fix that after stream. Thank you for telling me that. But no, no, do very much self promote. That was a that was a typo on my end. No, I want you to self promote. So if you have a Discord or a DeviantArt or a Twitter or anything you want. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so stupid. Oh, but thank you, Hey Girl. I really appreciate you telling me that. So anyway, have you been doing lately? I know you said you don't game, but have you been doing anything else fun that's not gaming? Yeah, the reason why I say JP a lot is because at one point John Paul changed his name and he went by JP during that time and it just stuck even after he went back to just calling himself John Paul. So it became kind of like just this running joke between the two of us. Um, Hey girl, you missed quite a lot. Let me see if I can summarize, because I don't like anyone to feel like they missed too much. So, um, you missed some very interesting interactions I had on my Virtual Boy video. I talked about my mission trip a little bit. Yeah, I tried to do literally a day by day analysis of everything that I could remember from my first mission trip because no one was talking. So I figured, well, if no one's going to stop me, then I'm just going to blab about my mission trip because no one is telling me to shut up. So I literally said, this is what happened on Sunday. And I tried to go in chronological order of like, this is what we did when we first got here. Then we did this and then we did this. And I was going to go all the way through the week. Thankfully, someone finally interrupted me when I got to Sunday evening. But I was trying to see how good my memory was of something that happened well over 10 years ago. Then I talked about how I've learned that emotions are in the part of the brain called the amygdala, and that's the part of the brain that registers stuff like smoke alarms. So it's you'll go back and rewatch. Oh, that means a lot to me. Hey girl, thank you. But yeah, you missed the part where I talked about like as I've gotten older, I've come to the realization that I never want to dismiss people's emotions because they come from the part of the brain called the amygdala. And that's the smoke detector part of the brain. So whenever you feel any kind of emotion, it's put there, not necessarily logical, but it's put there for some kind of self-preservation instinct. Oh, oh, you go to school. Okay, gotcha. Oh, well, you can always skim. But if you don't mind me asking, what kind of stuff are you studying in school? You wishlist all the Somnium files and Master Detective archives. Oh my gosh, Jevil, that made my day. Thank you so much. I know you weren't doing it for me, but it still makes me feel so happy. So, but yeah, like I've realized that I tend to feel sad a lot, but I don't always know why I'm sad. But now that I learned that about the amygdala, I'm starting to realize maybe this sadness is trying to tell me something. And so that's why I'm slowly getting to the point where I'm going to start really paying attention to whenever people get emotional and just say, okay, is there some kind of self preservation going on? And then that's hopefully going to help me to be nicer to people and not be accidentally rude, because I'm sure you and I both know, extroverted feeling blind spot is just, "Oh, you just realized you made another social blunder, right?" And I'm like, "I did. Whoops." A front desk of a motel? Okay, very nice. Studying social work? I would say I'm decent at emotions. Like, I would say that there are 2 emotional states that people see in me, and that's excitement and everything else. So, like, when I am feeling anything other than excitement, I tend to not really have a whole lot going on outwardly. Like, I've noticed that people can't seem to tell when I'm just content or when I'm sad. Like, they might pick up on that something is off, but they wouldn't be able to tell what it is that I'm feeling. Like, for example, when I get angry, I usually don't raise my voice. I usually don't go like that. I'm usually just like, "Oh, hey, do you think you could maybe, like, not do that? Because that kinda hurt." Like, that's how I express anger. When I'm sad, I might, like, talk a little bit slower and say, like, "Yeah, I didn't have the best day." But it's like the only emotion that I genuinely show with, like, no limitations whatsoever is excitement. If I'm excited about a game, you're all gonna hear about it, like, even if you don't want to. I'm gonna be like, "Yo, guess what, guys? They announced Mario versus Donkey Kong for the Switch, and I am so, so excited." But I would say that when it comes to my emotions, I feel them pretty strongly. I just don't always show them. But I don't want anyone to think that I dismiss emotions. I've actually been mistaken as a feeling type quite a lot because I realize that there's value in emotions, and heck, in the Bible it said Jesus cried. So I figure if he can do it, why not me? All right, let's see what you said, Jevil, because you know me, I love Somnium Files. You have the first Somnium Files, probably play the rest of them. Very nice. I would say don't play all of the Somnium Files games. I would say just play the first one and Nirvana Initiative. No Sleep for Kaname Date is it's a bit of a letdown. Like, you can tell Uchikoshi didn't work on it. Literally, the only thing I liked about it were the escape rooms and the voice acting. And there's only, I think, like 3 escape rooms. No, 4. There's only 4 escape rooms in the whole game. And the somniums are all like just a straight line and they're all like stupid easy. Like, I think I only died in one of them. And that was because I was trying to experiment. And you don't really learn a whole lot that progresses the overall narrative. It feels like it's more of a spin-off. So yeah, just stop with Nirvana Initiative, and then I'll keep you posted if they ever make a 4th one. But yeah, like, when I went to visit Isabel, she said something really funny to me. She said, "Paul, you're you're the type of person that I can't get a good read on outwardly because you're just not very expressive." And I was really shocked by that because I always thought I was an expressive person. But then I looked back at the footage of the trip and I noticed that there was a stark contrast between her and me. Like, when I was excited, you would see a lot of outward expression. Like, the video's starting and you see Isabel running up to me, and then I, gave her a hug and I like lifted her up and I spun her around. And there was this giant grin on my face. But then, like, once we were like in the hotel room and filming, you notice that I would I'd smile, but like my body language didn't show a whole lot. Whereas she, like, if I said a funny joke, she'd be like doubled over in laughter, and like she'd be going like that a whole lot if she was like crying of laughter. And just if like I said something that shocked her, she'd like go like that and just be all over the place. And I was just kind of I just had that same Uh, oh, whoops, something just made the stream lag. Am I still live, guys? Because Avast keeps doing that. Yes, I plan on keeping that joke going, Jevil. But it's not that I'm trying to do that. It's literally an unconscious process. Like, I was feeling a lot of great emotions when I was with her. I was feeling excited to meet her, which don't make me repeat myself. I already said I was excited. Um, I was feeling I was hoping that the trip would go well, so there was maybe a little bit of anxiety there. There was sadness when the trip started leaving. Different people express emotions differently. Oh, yeah, I have learned that. But I think Isabella just finds it funny because um she's not used to people like me because we're enigma types. Not sure what your type is? Generally speaking, I would say the first thing to look for is what type of intuition you have. That's usually for me, that's a dead giveaway. Let me first answer Jevel's question, and then I'll keep that up. Am I going to buy a ticket soon for Mario Galaxy movie? Yes. I plan on seeing it day one with my sister. On April Fool's Day, too. So first off, introverted intuition is a very focused type of way of looking at things. You take one concept or one object or one person and you try to get as deep as possible. Like, for example, you could look at these headphones and you could say, okay, what are these headphones? Why are these headphones here? What can I do with these headphones? What's the reason for the headphones? Why is there red here? And you're just trying to zero in on everything about these headphones. And you might get so focused on the headphones that you lose track of everything else around you. Someone might try to talk to you and like, huh, what were you saying? I wasn't paying attention. Or you might like think, okay, why did Paul just rub his temple there? I just did that randomly. But if I did that for real, you might think, why did he do that? What was the reason behind it? Is there something going on? Let me start psychoanalyzing this. So that's introverted intuition. Extroverted intuition, which is what I have, is this way more whimsical, kind of idea driven type of intuition, which Jevel has that too. So just just watch how easily distracted the two of us are. Like something new comes up and we're like, ooh, that looks cool. Let's explore this idea. But usually when we do explore an idea, it's like explored within the context of things that are familiar. So, like, I will usually make jokes about games that I like and how a statement someone made reminded me of that game. Like, someone might say, I don't know, like, oh, Paul, you're the crowning achievement. And it would make me think of chess because you crown things in chess. Or I might think, ooh, what if I did this kind of video for my channel? But then I'd get distracted and I get a new idea and then something else would come up. So, generally speaking, if you're easily distracted, have I been typed something other than ISTJ? Yes. I have been typed as literally every other type except for two, and that's ISTP and ENTP. Those are the only two types no one has typed me as. Just because I'm a versatile guy. Like, I can literally be whatever I need to be. I've been as ruthless as an ENTJ at times, but I've also been as gentle as an ESFJ. It really all depends on the situation. But if I had to guess why I've never been typed as an ISTP or an ENTP is I don't really use introverted thinking all that much. And when I do, I usually think it's stupid. Like I'm like, why would I bother using my own logic to figure out the truth? Logic either is or it isn't. It's not a matter of whether it makes sense to me. It's a matter of is it true or not. And I think because I'm that critical towards introverted thinking, it probably means I don't value it in my function stack. And besides, as I mentioned earlier, I'm the king of accidentally offending people. So I don't think I would use extroverted feeling. Um, Jevel, I would estimate your type is either an ENFP or an ENTP because you are like the most idea driven person I've ever met. Like the type of person that just gets a new idea and then just all about it. And that's a compliment because I tend to really get along with those types of people a lot. And plus, your name, Jevel, like Jevel, I'm pretty sure is either an ENTP or an ENFP. And you've said that you're like Jevel in real life. Because Jevel, he's like this very hyper. Well, actually, I don't know. I'll have to think about that. Jevel is a bit of a spoilery character. Hmm. I'll have to think of how to phrase that without spoiling Deltarune. But yeah, I've been typed as an ENFP because I've. Ooh, thank you, Tyler. You did such a great job on this. Speaking of Tyler, guys, he has a merch shop. And since I made a mistake when I said don't self promote, I actually meant to say do self promote. I want you to self promote. Tyler, would you be comfortable with sharing a link to your shop in the chat? I could probably find it, but I want to make sure it's the right one. And I don't want the stream to lag if I'm looking for it too much. Yeah, I'm not seeing it on this one, so I don't know if I want to risk it. Oh, I absolutely insist. I 100% insist. I know Hey Girl mentioned that chat. Well, that's the point, Hey Girl. Tyler designed this shirt, and I wanted to show off. He's my favorite YouTuber at present. So I really want everyone to know that, in my personal opinion, I think he's an even better YouTuber than me. And I've said over and over and over again, Tyler's probably tired of hearing this. I personally think our subscriber number should be reversed because I'll wait until Tyler gets back because he might be distracted by getting the link. But Tyler, I think you'll be really happy by what I'm about to tell you. But yeah, hey girl, I would say getting back to your question about Myers-Briggs, figure out what type of intuition you have, and then that narrows it down automatically. The link should be in there. Well, here's what I was going to tell you. I've actually been binging your back catalog. Not all of it. Like I skipped the PS5 ones, but like just about everything else I've been binging because this Lent, I told myself that the only YouTube videos I'm going to watch are ones that support my friends. And since you're my friend and you could really use the engagement, I said, I am just going to watch all of Tyler's videos and I'm going to like every single one of them if I like it, which I think there's only one video that you made in your back catalog where I was like, I don't get the humor here. But like literally every single one of them was like peak comedy. I absolutely like your jokes are so hilarious and I love them so much. Um, yeah, I have a lot to say to you, but I don't want people to think that I'm taking away from their time on the stream. But just check Google Hangouts when you get a chance, because I do want to set up a time where I can talk about that a bit more so that no one feels left out here. But yes, I have been binging your back catalog. You know, I may actually, well, I don't know if you want me to single you out so much, but I will, oh, oh, hey, thank you for coming to say hello, Tyler. That does mean a lot to me. But yes, please check your Google Hangouts when you get a chance. Um, it, that just reminded me of another question I'm going to ask you, but I'll ask it later because I don't want to get in the way of everyone else. But yeah, thank you for coming. Everyone, check out Tyler's shop. I think you can click on his name if you want to go to his channel. If it doesn't work, maybe like after I edit this, I will put in the link to his shop just so that I don't slow down this live stream. Thank you, Tyler. You have fun as well. Oh, I'm glad you said that, hey girl, because one of my biggest missions in life is I want to have the world's best t-shirt collection. My mom thinks I have the world's largest t-shirt collection actually, because I've been on so many mission trips and so many conferences that I have just like the wildest collection of stuff. Like this I got because I wanted to support Tyler. And then I have like, my Taco Tuesday shirt that was from the mission trip. My brothers like to buy me a lot of shirts. So I'm hoping that whoever watches my back catalog will have a really good time looking at my shirts because whenever I wear a shirt, I usually don't wear it just because I just threw something on and called it a day. There's usually a very calculated reason behind it. Like I wore this shirt hoping that Tyler would show up, and he did. And I also wore it hoping that people would ask, "Who's that guy in your shirt? I don't think that's you, Paul." And then they'd say, "Ooh, what's this shirt about?" And then that would get people to watch Tyler's channel. So there you go. You know you're not a hugger. Oh, I don't want to say that word there. Um, Chronic singleness. I used to feel chronic singleness, not anymore. I've watched other people get into relationships and all their wedding prep, and it just seems like a nightmare. I was thinking, I do have a female friend that is married that if she gets too lonely after her husband dies, I would maybe like have her as like a second marriage, but I don't want to think about that because that sounds like that's stupid. But it would be for the purposes of not making her lonely. Because I can't think of any other girl that I'd want to date more than her, which to be clear, I don't want to date her right now. But I also don't want her to be lonely if her husband ever dies. So it would be kind of a for your sake more than for mine kind of thing. But at the moment, I just don't see myself as a type of person who dates a lot of people. Hey, you know what, Jevel? The thing about hugs is it's really hard to tell who likes hugs and who doesn't. And I know that asking, like, "Hey, do you like hugs?" I know that that is very difficult to do because I hate asking that question as well. So I've personally found that the best way you can get hugs is by doing something that makes someone happy. Like, generally speaking, most people, if they're just like really overjoyed by something you do, most people are going to want to hug you. So, like, if you get someone like a really nice gift for their birthday, that will usually get people to want to hug you. And if you like say a compliment to them, and it feels like a genuine compliment too. Like, don't just say like, "Oh, you smell like a rose." Like girls are gonna see through that. They want a genuine thing that's like even if they weren't your type, you'd still compliment them. Like that's the kind of compliments girls like. They don't want you to say, "Oh, you're only complimenting me because you're hitting on me." They want to feel like you genuinely mean it. And even if like I don't know, even if she cheats on you, you'd still compliment her. I still compliment my ex even though she cheated on me. That's the kind that they really want. You gave a half hug to your ex-boyfriend because he asked for a hug. You didn't want to say no completely. Pan in one hand. I was glad I did. Very nice. Hey, girl. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, no, I would hug my ex-girlfriend. Um, I probably wouldn't, because we used to have this special kind of hug that I only let her do. Because, like, she is quite short. And so I would let her just, like, run into me and, because in order to hug her properly, I'd have to, like, bend down to reach around her. And I just said, "Well, if you're that short, I'll just, like, hug you like this instead." Then after we broke up, I realized it was stupid to make it just for her, so I started letting other girls hug me like that, but I've always felt weird initiating that kind of hug. So I tend to just I tend to let girls be the ones that tell me how they want to hug and just go from there. Cause like my friend Danielle, she is like the hugger to end all huggers. Like usually the first thing that comes out of her mouth whenever we hang out is, "Paul, I need a hug. It's been so long." And then like when she hugs, she's like this, like she's shaking and just like, "Oh, I love you so much. You're great." And then there's my friend Kara who she likes hugs so much that one time we tried to do a no hug November and she hated it with a passion. She just said, "Paul, I never want to do that again. That was so miserable." Do I like Kermit the Frog? I haven't watched the Muppets in so long that I forgot what Kermit the Frog was like. So I'm going to say I don't know if I like Kermit or not. I heard he got a new voice actor though, and I've heard that not a whole lot of people liked him. I don't know what the new voice actor sounds like. But the one that I remember from back when I watched the Muppets, I did like his voice. I thought it was neat. Speaking of the Muppets, I don't watch them a whole lot because puppets aren't really my thing, but I do think the Game Awards handles them brilliantly. Like at the most recent Game Awards, I really loved the fact that the Muppets sang a song that was roasting the Game Awards. I thought that was just absolutely hilarious. But hey girl, before I forget, when I described the two types of intuition, did it give you an idea of which one you had, or do you think you might need more to work with than that? Because once you find what type of intuition you have, then you also automatically know what type of sensing you have. Because if you have extroverted intuition, then you'll be the type of person that um, tends to think about personal details a lot when you think about the past. But if you have introverted intuition, you'll be the type that tends to think of the past more in terms of like data points or an overview. Like all of my friends that have introverted intuition will usually say like, "Oh, that was a good event," or "Oh, yeah, this was the um like they'll talk about like the aesthetics of things, but they won't talk about what they got out of it. Whereas me, on the other hand, I am like the definition of introverted sensing. I will blab on and on about where I was sitting, what I was wearing, like all those unnecessary details. Down to earth. So the thing about intuition is that it comes in different strengths depending on where it is on the function stack, but it's going to show up one way or the other. Like for me, I have intuition in the inferior. So you're not going to see a whole lot of that more whimsical, wild, idea driven side that you'd see in like an ENFP. But when it does come out, you can tell that it's extroverted and not introverted intuition because I never make overview statements. I never just focus on the aesthetics, and I almost never talk about what other people are doing. In fact, I've gotten in trouble for that a couple of times. Oh, thank you, Catholic Kyle. I would love to be at the Catholic Creator Conference. I just don't know what I would do to be enrolled in it. And if I had to give any personal information, I would be a bit embarrassed. But hey, if you can send me the logistics of it to my email, just go on my channel page to the About section. You can go ahead and email me the details, and I'll see if I can make it. But yeah, I would love to. I have been saying for years that I would love to be invited to something like Comic-Con or, like you said, Catholic Creators Conference. That does sound like something I'd like to do because I like interacting with people. Linear, simple, step by step, to the point, and practical. Okay. Um, I can see why you got typed as an ISTJ because I am all that stuff too. The fact that you said practical makes me think you're probably a sensor. To the point probably means you're direct, so that's either an ST or an NJ. Step by step, that's progression. Let me see what Kyle says first. Follow up with an email. Very good. Thank you so much, Kyle. I hope I'm not being rude, but I really want to answer Hey Girl's question because we met at a typology related video, and I know how frustrating it can be to um, I know how frustrating it can be to not know your type. So first off, linear, that's usually I'd associate it with introverted intuition. I'm not 100% sure about that. So let's come back to that. Simple, typically a sensor's approach to things. Step by step, that's progression. So that means you're either, if you're a sensor, you're either an IST or an ESF. But you also said you're to the point. So that's direct. So that means you wouldn't be an SF. You'd be an ST or an NJ. Practical, usually that's a sensor type of approach. Um, I might need more information than that, but I think it's fair to say that you're at least a progression type and at least a direct type. So the direct types that are progression are ISTJs, INTJs, ISTPs, um, I think that's it as far as direct and progression, and I know INTJs are direct and progression. What was it again? ISTJs, INTJs, ISTP, INFJs are direct, but I wouldn't say they're practical. Okay, you might be narrowed down to either an ISTJ or an ISTP. It just depends on your function preferences. Plan everything? Okay, that sounds like logistical intelligence. So that sounds like you might be an ISTJ in that case. Then the question would just be, is your go-to way of doing things just whatever is familiar, whatever is comfortable? Like for me, for example, if I do anything, one of the first things I think about is comfort. Like, am I going to be in good air conditioning if it's cold? And if it's warm? If it's cold, I'm going to say, am I going to be in good heat? Is my hair going to be a good length so that my ears are warm? Is it familiar? That's another thing I always think about. Sorry if I'm avoiding anyone. Again, I know how frustrating it can be to not know your type. Um, I'm the type that when I plan for things, I plan for things in the foreseeable future, but not the far future. So, like, I'm usually the one that plans the agendas for everything. So like if my friends are coming over, for example, I'll say, okay, we're going to do this at this time and we're going to go here and it's going to take approximately this long to get here. So we'll plan for this feature. And then this is how much time we have. So let's do this now so that we'll have enough time to get it done because it takes this long to get to it. That's how my brain works. If you were an ISTP, they have tactical intelligence. So they would be more about in the moment planning. So like if something happens right now, they'd know what to do. Very, very similar to yours. Yeah, you're probably an ISTJ then. Because ISFJs are informative, and you don't strike me as informative. Said you don't look too far in advance means you probably don't have introverted intuition. Yeah, you probably are an ISTJ then. Yes, I do lucid dream all the time, Jevel. All the time. I love my lucid dreams. Kyle, since I haven't talked to you that much, I was curious. I was curious, like what kind of things do you like? You say I'm a legend, so I'm certainly hoping it's a video that's still on my channel. But yeah, do you like video games? Do you like movies? Like what kind of stuff do you like? Also, another thing to think about, hey girl, is um, if you're an ISTJ, you're also affiliative, which means you might be mistaken for an extroverted feeling type because affiliative is all about cooperation, inclusion, making sure everyone's included. So, like, I'll usually make statements about, like, oh, I want to make sure that no one feels left out. Everyone is like, I'm reading everyone's comments. And that's why I've sometimes been mistaken as an FJ. So, if you get those kinds of mistypes, then there you go, all the more reason. But, yeah, I started lucid dreaming about I'd like to say probably 3 years ago was when I first started. And I would some of my favorite lucid dreams have been whenever I thought I was on a mission trip, and I'd say like, "Oh, good, I'm back." Or, like, sometimes I've been able to fly, and, like, I've been able to, like, control the flight because 'cause I'll say it's a dream, so the laws of physics don't apply, and I was just so, so happy by those lucid dreams. A married father, 6th kid due in September. Very, very nice. Don't have much time for games. Bearded Blevins stream. Okay, let me copy and paste that if I can. Yes, I can. Bearded Blevins. Okay, let me put that in my notes here. All right. Got it. All right, thank you. Control the flight. Yes, yes, I would control the flight. I also like he's Ninja's older brother. Who's Ninja? Sorry, I'm not too caught up on, I'm not too caught up on, what's the word? Popular culture. I tend to be a bit of a I tend to be a bit behind in just about everything, except the Switch 2. Literally, this piece of machinery is the only thing I'm caught up on. Like, everything else is all ancient. Like, this flip phone is from 2019. I have an Android for taking pictures. This cup of water is based on Skyward Sword. Helen the Chicken Bin. I don't think I've ever heard of that, Jovel. I'd be very curious to hear more about it. And yes, congratulations on having 6 kids, Kyle. I always love hearing about people having kids. I know not everyone can have kids. I know that's a sensitive topic, but I'm happy that there are still people out there in this modern era that don't think kids are a waste of space. And so even if people aren't able to have kids, the fact that they want to have kids just means a lot to me. But hey girl, I'm sorry if this is rude to ask, but like if I'm talking to you offhanded to other people, um I want to make sure I'm addressing you correctly. So are you actually a girl or is that just your nickname? Because I want to make sure I don't call you a she when you're actually a guy. So if you could clarify that for me just so that I can be polite when I'm talking to you with other people, that would be very great. Um, what was I going to say besides that? Oh, I think you guys would be really happy to hear that I almost got a collaboration with a company that makes Switch docks. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say the name of the company, um, but there was someone that said, "Hey, we're making this type of Switch dock, and we would like it if you wanted to, if you could cover definitely a female. All right, good to know. You know, I don't like being sexist on this channel, but one thing that really bothers me about my analytics is that they don't seem to really like female audiences all that much because like you can set how often you have like how much of a percentage of your audience is male or female, how much is like 18 to 20 versus like 35. And the statistics will usually be like so grossly exaggerated that I would start to think that they were blatantly untrue. Like there was one time where my editor was like constantly watching my videos and I knew she was a girl, but it would say like you got 0% female views in the past 7 days and I'd be like, I know that that is blatantly untrue. Let me see what Catholic Kyle says here. No worries. Ninja was at one time the biggest Twitch streamer. By the way, the reason you're a oh. Yeah. Well, um I hope that is one thing I am going to put my foot down if I do go to the Catholic Creators Conference is if there's like a moderator at my booth, I want the moderator to tell people, do not mention the meme. Do not mention that video. Otherwise, I'm going to shoot down the comment and I'm going to redirect everything. But credit where credit is due. There are people that came after the meme that have been really nice to me. Those people I respect. Everyone else, I just want them to forget that that ever happened, honestly. But at the very least, you strike me as the type of person that is being authentic with that statement. So I appreciate it. But yeah, like I just think analytics the thing about gamers, and this goes for both male and female gaming channels, is they have a really hard time getting female audiences, like even other girls who will have like cozy game channels where they only talk about like more girly games will have a predominantly male audience. And so I think what analytics does is it assumes that your audience is mostly male and it doesn't count the few female audience members you do have. And I think that's unfortunate because, again, I want everyone to feel included. So I don't want people to feel like I'm only catering to a particular age or a particular gender. But I wish analytics would at least give my female audience a little bit of credit. Let's see what Jevil was saying. Helen Chicken from Chuck E. Cheese. I haven't been to Chuck E. Cheese in a long time, probably because I'm too old for it. But I heard there's an adult version of it. Personality type is a little difficult to guess because you're on the spectrum. The thing about autism is that there are different types of autism. So you can meet someone who is autistic, but also is a different personality type because autism is a spectrum. And the reason why it's called a spectrum is that there's no one size fits all answer. And I know autistic people think literally. So what that means is you can't just say, oh, well, because I'm autistic, I have all of these problems. Like some autistic people are going to say, well, I don't have that problem. That's why it's a spectrum. So, like, some autistic people may be really talkative and really enjoy being around people. Other autistic people might say, I've made too many mistakes and I'm just going to be a hermit the rest of my life because people bully me too much. And you might meet autistic people that are more like abstract and they like ideas and deeper meanings, and you might find some that don't give a darn about the meaning of the universe and the deeper side of things, and they might just say, I only care about what's right in front of me. So really the only thing that you can say definitively for certain about autistic people is that the part of their brain that governs like social cues has the neurons slightly out of like they have neurons that are disconnected. And so like for a neurotypical, those neurons would like give them these tiny little nudges like, hey, maybe you shouldn't say that. And they don't really have that for autistic people, but they can learn. But here's the thing, they have to use a different part of their brain to learn. And so that's why it comes more difficult for them. But when they do master socialization, they can often pass for a neurotypical because the other part of their brain that governs autism is working on overdrive. And as a result, um, that's why you'd be surprised. You might be staring at someone on the spectrum and not even know it because they realize that society really doesn't give a darn about autistic people. And um, so they have to like blend in. They're not really allowed to truly be themselves, and which I think is sad because autistic people have things to offer to the world that maybe other people don't. Like, there's this type of autistic person called a savant. And what that means is that they have this, like, again, I don't want to sound like I'm making anyone feel left out, but like a superhuman type of skill set. Like some savants might be able to see a city from like a helicopter. And then, like, years later, they'll still be able to draw it perfectly. Or they might like have such a good memory that they can recite the entire dictionary. Do I often feel misunderstood as an ISTJ? That's a good question. Um, I feel like ever since I did that interview with Mongolian Mindset, no, I don't. But I do feel like before I started talking to them and before I learned about the interaction styles, because I used to only talk about cognitive functions, um, I did get a lot of people that said, "There's no way you're an ISTJ. You are, like, so people-oriented, and you're so talkative." But once I learned not only about the interaction styles, but the functions in conjunction, then I started to realize, no, these people just don't know typology. Um, it is very clear that my type of intelligence is logistical, which that isn't even Myers-Briggs. That's David Keirsey, which is the four temperaments, which the SJs are logistical, SPs are tactical, NTs are rational, and NFs are diplomatic. I'm definitely not diplomatic. I know I come across as it, but that's because I try to be polite because that's part of my values. Um, I'm not uh, I'm not strategic. I can't plan for the future to save my life unless it's an agenda. Tactical, nope. I'm not good at being in the moment. So process of elimination is SJ's. And then you just ask, are you progression or are you outcome? Half the time I can't even see the outcome. Like even when I planned my end of year videos for an entire year, they still turned out completely differently by the time I started putting them together. So I put more stock on the process of doing things than I do how they turn out, which could also be a sign of eighth function intuition. And then you look at like the definition of affiliative, which again sounds like extroverted feeling at first glance because it's all about inclusion. It likes to work together with other people. It prefers to cooperate, follow the rules, do the right thing, which again, sounds like every other FJ, right? But here's the thing. STJs are the only two thinking types that are affiliative. All the others are pragmatic, which means that all the other thinking types are okay with breaking the rules if it gets results. STJs are the only thinking types that'll stop themselves and say, no, I want to be on the right side of the law. And I want everyone to work together and I want everyone to get along. And that's why they're the guardians, because they tend to be fiercely loyal to that which they love. Like they love their family and they love their friends. Heck, a lot of them even love their exes. And they'll guard those traditions, or more specifically, the people, because I don't feel like I'm a tradition keeper at all. Oh, I'm so glad I could help. Hey, girl. Hey, never feel ashamed to just interrupt everything and ask those kinds of questions. I am perfectly fine with people having multiple conversations at once. Speaking of which, let me get to what Jevil was saying. You watched a show called Atypical Pretty? The main character falls on the spectrum and he loves talking about penguins. Yeah, autistic people have a tendency, again, it's a spectrum, but they have a tendency to hyperfixate on one thing, and that's like all they'll talk about. But I find that I actually really like it when they do that because you tend to learn a lot that you wouldn't learn from anyone else as a result. Now, admittedly, they could learn, like, okay, other people have stuff that they like as well. They could probably learn to be a bit more sympathetic to that. But at the same time, it's a learning process. They learn, okay, other people's experiences, other people's likes can have value. I remember when I was young, I used to hate, absolutely hate experimenting with things. And my friend Mike is the exact opposite. He's an ISTP. If something looks good, he goes for it. And he said, Paul, there's this really good game called The World Ends With You. And I really wish you would try it. And I said, oh, that looks like a disaster. It looks so wacky and wild and out there. And that just seems like that would be a tremendous waste of my time. And he said, well, Paul, how about this? I'm going to let you borrow that game. And it's going to hurt my feelings if you don't play it. So I want you to play this game and I want you to figure out for yourself if you like it or not. So I said, all right, well, if you're going to go like that, then I guess I'll try it. And I loved it. So ever since that day, I have started to think maybe other people have some really good suggestions about things that I might end up liking. And that got me to be more open to other people's experiences. Again, hey girl, you're probably thinking, oh, Effie blind spot. But yeah, that was the moment where I started thinking I should start taking other people's opinions at face value. And I feel like if autistic people heard that example and they were given an opportunity to take things at their own pace, I think they'd be more willing to try out other things besides their personal interests. Because I also, at one point, I didn't like going to huge conventions. That's happened to you, hey girl? Nice to know where I'm. Hallelujah! Oh my goodness. I'm so glad you could make it. Hallelujah. I thought you'd be. Speaking of which, do you have a nickname? Like, do you call yourself Haley or Hallie? I had a classmate named Hallie, not Haley. It was Hallie. And so I've never heard anyone else who has that name yet. So that's why I'm clarifying. Um, Hallie, I actually watched one of your videos where you did an Advent reflection, and I thought it was really good. I didn't finish it, but I did really like what I saw of it. So thank you for that. How are you doing? And we got he sorry, I'm gonna butcher this. Hikikomori Media. Thanks for leaving kind comments. Um, I don't remember what video you're talking about. Haley, okay. That's easy to remember because I used to have a coworker named Haley. You don't hyperfixate on one topic. That's true. You do talk about quite a lot of stuff, Jeffel. So a very good that is a very good progression from what autistic people usually do. But yes, he. Do you have a nickname? Because I don't think I'm going to be able to say that more media thing. Um, but hey, kudos for being creative. If it wasn't a church saying you are a blessing, hallelujah. He Hikiko. Okay, gotcha. I'll call you Hikiko then. All right, cool, cool. I'm um I'm not too good with names yet. Um so Hikiko, you might have to remind me where we met. I know Haley because I was recently watching through my subscriptions trying to see what everyone else was up to. And I remember thinking that is such a cool name. And then I remember looking at your channel description and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is so cool that we get this nice, soft-spoken Catholic woman that um, likes to talk about the more traditional stuff, which is great. Nice comments on your channel a while back. I'm glad. You know what? I can check out your channel right now. See what kind of stuff you have. Maybe that'll jog my memory. Let's see here. Oh, okay. Long form retrospectives. That does sound like something I would like. Let me see if I can find the one that says which one I watched. Not seeing anything yet. Oh, here we go. Oh, now I remember. It was your Another Code Recollection video. Oh, I loved that one. I am such a huge fan of trace memory. And oh, you have to head out? Thanks for coming, hey girl. I hope you have a great rest of your day and thank you so much for your support. Hey, if I haven't answered all your questions, feel free to just pop me a random comment or email me, either one, and I'll answer more of them. Hallie's been a big part of the success of the Catholic Creator Conference. That's so cool. Oh, Kyle, now I'm really excited for that email of yours. Honestly, I really do want to go, like really badly. I will like cancel all of my plans to make it if I can. Because that does sound really great. I I actually um I actually used to be a public speaker before I was on YouTube. So if that is something that they allow us to be able to do, I would be genuinely honored to be able to give a public speech. Like, I'd want a booth. That would be the first thing I'd want, but public speaking would also be great as well. You got to head out too, Jevil? Yes, my water is running out. But I have been getting more energy at these conversations. Maybe it's because people are actually talking now. But yes, I actually haven't played Another Code R. I played the one on Another Code Recollection. But yes, thank you, Jevil. Thank you for dropping by. And I did not like Another Code Recollections version of Another Code R. I liked the story. I liked how they changed it, but I did not like the controls. I thought they were abysmal. I almost didn't finish the game. So it very well could have been a year where it didn't make my top 10 list. It just barely made it on there. I think the game behind it was Endless Ocean Luminous, which was why I had Isabel do that honorable mentions because I didn't want her to do any work that went unnoticed. So you have to go too, Hikiko? Well, thank you so much for showing up. Glad you could make it. And again, great job with that Another Code video. Our speaker docket is full this year. It's a bit different than what you're imagining. The attendees are exclusively oh, okay. Yeah, in that case, that sounds even better. Sounds great. LOL, all of your plans. Don't worry, Haley. I only have 2 big plans this year. Um, and one of them, I imagine it will be easily movable. Let's just put it that way. I don't like going to graduations or weddings. I know that's probably sounds sacrilegious for a Catholic to say, but I have a hard time with symbolism. And so like weddings are just very, very symbolic, and you'd be surprised how many people treat weddings like they become like almost like you're a monk, but like a married monk. Like some people, like after they get married, they go on this thing called a honeymoon, and then they spend such a long time with their partner. And then that makes me sad because I'm like, oh, well, what about all your friends? And thankfully, I've been really blessed to have a lot of friends who are still willing to. Do I mind just saying my email address? That's weird. On oh, okay. That's weird. Yeah, I'll just type it right here. There you go. But no, I always turn down my friends' weddings, but just to make sure they don't feel too sad, I usually try to do something that's like, I usually try to do something to make up for it. Like I might say, well, I will plan a super special hangout where I'll treat you to dinner, or like we'll go somewhere special and like I'll get you something that's like only I can do. That way it's more personal. That way it feels like I'm treating the person like an individual. Whereas at a wedding, like you have all your guests, but then like you might not have time to interact with all of them. And if you do, it's usually got to be like super brief. Like because there's so many people at the wedding. And then you have like you have like friends of the bride and friends of the groom, and then it feels all segregated, and I don't like segregation. I wish everyone could just be in one big happy family. That's why I get sad that men and women's restrooms exist, which I get why. I never want to say that I don't want that. It's just a shame that sinful nature has made that a reality. That's what makes me sad. That people can't just accept each other's differences and get along. But that's why I'm really looking forward to heaven, because in heaven there's a Bible verse that says, and again, it's not meant to be taken literally because we believe in the resurrection, but it says there's no such thing as male or female, Gentile or Jew, like any of that. Like everyone's an equal. And that's just weddings make me feel like there's a hierarchy of like, oh, the bride and the groom are more important than you in this moment. And that's what always made me sad whenever I had birthdays. Like I would always hate it that like everyone would be looking at me, and I'd be like, I don't want to be the center of attention. I want you guys to be happy too. And so like usually whenever I do birthday parties with my friends, I try to make sure that it's something that everyone is having fun with and not just me. Or like when I ask for presents, I'll ask for something that's like the other person feels like they're getting a present as well. Like if my friend Kara, for example, were to come and visit me, I'd say, "Hey Kara, let's go swimming." Why? She loves swimming as much as I do. To her, that would be a great birthday present. Or I might say like, "Kara, I would love it if you could just give me like 10 hugs today because she loves hugs." That's what she asked for her birthday one year. She just said, "Paul, I want you to give me more hugs than you normally would." So yeah, everything is all about trying to make sure that there's as little differences as possible in the world, and the differences that we do have shouldn't equate to anyone being better than the other person. So like even if there has to be the reality that we live in where, like, male and female locker rooms are a real deal. I hope that, like, the girls in those locker rooms don't go around saying, "Oh, men are such disgusting, terrible creatures, and we're in a haven of good people." Like, that's what I'm hoping for here. I hope that didn't sound like an SJW way of looking at things, because I really don't, consider myself a radical. I consider myself the type of person that tries my best to look at the catechism and talk to, like, the church expert so that I'm not misinterpreting anything. And that way, like, if I am wrong about something, they can correct me instead of me using my own judgment. Because I'm pretty sure there's a Bible verse that says, "No scripture is a matter of one's own interpretation, but by men and women that have been blessed by the Spirit." I'm not a Protestant, so I probably misquoted that. But that verse stuck out to me as, like, one of the most Catholic verses I had ever heard, because that's the whole point of Catholicism. Is we don't use our own interpretations. We use the apostles. That's why we profess in the creed one holy Catholic and apostolic. Why do I have a comb around here? Um, and I have admitted times where I was wrong before. Like, I used to be a modesty stickler, and I do still think modesty is important. But the way I was describing modesty, like, before I learned better, I used to think that this was immodest, even though it really isn't. So, you guys are probably all thinking that's ridiculous. And it was. And I looked at the catechism and it's like, no, the catechism would not consider that immodest. This is the actual definition of modesty. You were thinking of a different definition. Am I making any sense? Because I just made you all so quiet. I hope I didn't bother anyone there. I probably got to get going pretty soon anyway, because it's almost time for dinner and my water's almost out and my voice is starting to get sore. And I'm looking forward to Kyle's email. But I think it was the Holy Spirit that prompted you, Kyle, because I my sister had prayed over me a couple of days ago, and she had and God had told her to tell me that um he wasn't done with me yet as far as, like, major events that I would be able to go to, like CHWC and like NCYC. But I never would have expected that. That was a completely out of nowhere statement. So thank you for that. I do feel super honored. All right, guys, I'm sorry, but my water's out. And when my water's out, I'm out. You can probably tell that my voice is starting to crack a bit. So before I go, um, was there anything you guys wanted to say or ask really quickly? I think I might have had a connection error or something, because usually when I run out of water, people say, "Oh, time for the stream to end," or something like that. All right. Well, if I end the stream before you guys are able to ask your questions, you can just email me or comment on one of my random videos. That's totally fine by me. Um, I hope that you all have a great rest of your day. I usually like to thank every single person that comes. Thank you to Kyle and Haley and Hikoko, Jevil, Hey Girl, um, Ty the One Up guy came at one point. This is a long list. Let's see, who was the first person that came up with Milky Hazard? Pretty sure that was a spam. Mr. Falcon, John Paul. Almost forgot about John Paul. I actually met him on one of my mission trips, and he's been following me ever since. And all the invisible people who were there but just didn't say anything. So you all have a great rest of your day, and until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye.